Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 106, coming at you from the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you listen to podcasts and videos, of course, on my YouTube channel. Please be a friend, like, subscribe, trying to grow this thing, get things going naturally. So if you've watched more than one episode or you like to click through pics, at least click the like, subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a review on podcasts. Please, goes a long ways. And what a week. We had 4th of July holiday. I celebrated my 33rd birthday, which is crazy to think about. Got to have a nice week trip to Montana to enjoy some cooler weather. Had 3 lake days. Got to do some lake surfing. Thanks, Dylan, for hooking it up. Got to do some jet skis. Got to do a pontoon day with my best friend and his family. Had a couple rainy days in the 70 degrees, which here in the desert, it was like 117 degrees right once I got back. It was a amazing thing to escape the heat for a little bit, get in the mountains, just relax and unwind a little bit. So I could come back, kick some ass, talk some MMA, and I've been playing a little bit of poker here at the Desert Diamond Casino. Was watching YouTube yesterday on the World Series of Poker. One of the guys I was playing with is like 20th in chip standings with 100 and something players to go into day 6 or 7 today. So that's kind of interesting. Gave me some confidence, playing some quality poker players here in Arizona. I've been playing poker since I was probably, like 14, 15 years old. And yeah, it's a fun game. And that was crazy to see. But enough about me. Let's talk MMA. We have some fights that have been announced, a couple weeks of Ultimate Fighter, and then we will preview this weekend's UFC Fight Night card in Nashville, Tennessee. Man, being on the Broadway Strip in Nashville this weekend, watching some fights, affordable prices. I hope they do a Fight Night card here in Phoenix so I could get some affordable freaking UFC tickets. It sounds like a fantastic weekend. I expect a great card. So, a couple fights that have been adjusted. We have Tamirov out in his bout against Asu Almabayev. So Jose Ochoa, who is just coming off a brilliant win, will be facing off against a very tough Almabayev July 26th. And then we also had Ikram Aliskerov out in his fight against Bruno Ferreira. It looks like he broke his toe. So insert Jackson McVeigh at UFC 318. Jackson was the guy that I believe was way overweight and couldn't make it because he was supposed to fight Contender Series. Now getting the big leap to former Contender Series alum Bruno Ferreira. We also have Martin Buday taking on Marcus Almeida July 26th. August 2nd in the Apex, we have Esteban Rabovics and Elves Brenner. That's one hell of a scrap. I hate that that's in the Apex. We also have veterans Neil Magny and Elizao Zaleski dos Santos. August 9th in the Apex, we have Jocelyn Edwards now taking on Priscilla Cachoeira as Mayra Buena Silva's out. And then also booked for UFC 319 in Chicago, we have Jeff Neal and Carlos Prates. That was the fight that was originally booked. We have Modestas Bukauskas taking on Paul Craig September 6th. Marcin Tybura taking on former PFL fighter, new UFC fighter, Ante Delia. That should be fun. We have Fares Ziam taking on Cowie Fernandez. That should be an awesome fight. And then for UFC Noche, we have Edgar Chairez taking on Alessandro Costa and Raquel Pennington taking on Norma Dumont. She's fighting in back-to-back Noches. I got to see her at the Sphere. And then Jesus Aguilar is taking on Luis Garuli, Contender Series alum. Elsewhere in UFC roster news, Trevin Giles, Ainge Lusa, Jordan Vucenic, Viviani Araujo, and Felipe Dos Santos off the UFC roster. I know Felipe is nursing an injury. Seems like Trevin Giles is going to retire from MMA with the release. But I am shocked about Jordan Vucenic and Viviane Araujo. I'm surprised. Maybe it's contract disputes. Maybe there's still chances. But quality fighters. I was excited to see Jordan as he's just now in his prime at 30 years old. And then how about the Ben Askren update on social media that he had? Definitely hard to see. But watching the Ariel Helwani show in Vegas in the International Fight Week, getting all those people to sign the poker table, to donate to charity, to help with Ben Askren, Jake Paul donating money, and I'm sure many others. He's alive and kicking. He said he blacked out for pretty much like 4 weeks, died 4 times for, 10 to 20 seconds. Prayers to Ben Askren and his family. He's still doing it. He's a trooper. It was just good to see that he might be coming out on the other end, although it was a very tough experience for him and his family. Nobody tougher than wrestlers, I'll tell you that right now. But moving on to the Ultimate Fighter, we had Ultimate Fighter episode 6 right before the holiday week. I did an early in the week episode because I was leaving to Montana. In this episode, Daniel Cormier brought in veterans Rose Namajunas and Raquel Pennington to help train with the team. And we had Matt Dixon fighting, who had already fought in the Contender Series, and he was dominating the fight early but gassed himself out, so he learned from that. But a big win for Team Chell over Alex Sanchez. It was a banger of a fight. Both men roughed each other up, but as the fight went on, Matt was just kind of stalking Alex down, and probably the coolest scene was Daniel in the locker room after the fight saying, "You can't walk backwards. We can't move backwards. This is a fight." And he didn't earn that respect. He was gun shy. And yeah, you're fighting moving backwards. You're not in a good spot. But I liked the episode. This week, episode 7, we had Alibi Idris strike with Imanol Rodriguez in the flyweight. Good fight. I mean, in round 2, Chell's team basically went for the takedown after they decided to stand and strike, which, Rodriguez definitely has a kickboxing style, and clearly once he got taken down is not very well practiced in jiu-jitsu. He was basically on all fours. The guy was on his back up against the cage. He didn't use the cage to scrape up or look to go up, and just, white belt, 1 stripe type, took his neck and got the rear naked choke. So Team Chell back in action, back-to-back wins, solid fights. DC is super fired up, always helping his fighters talk trash, and you could tell is starting to be pretty serious in the locker room. So I'm warming up a little bit more to the Ultimate Fighter, but still, I don't know, being an OG TUF fan, it's been hit or miss this year. But the past 2 fights have been solid. I'm excited for the semifinals. I do think we have some very quality fights in store. So we'll make sure to talk about that in the coming weeks. But major blockbuster news from Conor McGregor and the BKFC promotion. They had announced what do they call it? Baddest Man Tournament, Baddest Woman Tournament, open weight class BKFC. It's a $25 million tournament for the men. The winner gets 15 milli, second place only $1 million, and then 17th to 32nd place $100K. BKFC champions now getting an opportunity for equity of up to $100,000 in the promotion. And then they had also announced signing ex-UFC fighters Thiago Santos, Derrick Brunson, Yoel Romero, and Aspen Ladd. I think a lot of those guys will fare well in BKFC. Derrick Brunson being very interesting. WEC champion, PFL champion. There's another promotion, or karate combat champion, now trying to be BKFC champion. So huge opportunity for the BKFC promotion. Interested to see the future they have in store. And talk about future, Donald Trump saying that there will be a UFC bout at the White House. Dana White confirming it on the Full Send podcast, stating that there will not be tickets for sale. It'll be an exclusive invite only. John Jones dips out of the retirement pool, gets back into the testing pool, which he's leveraging the White House as the reason being. I think he knows that the Cyril Gane-Tom Aspinall fight will happen. He'll get more tape and have the opportunity to study Tom Aspinall more, as well as Conor McGregor wanting to fight. This is super hypothetical of 2026 sometime. But could you imagine Conor McGregor, John Jones, and another quality fight at the fucking White House? Woo! That would be fired up. But let's talk about how poppin' Nashville will be this weekend. It's pretty much a regular time. I didn't put the times here. For the card, we have the prelims on ESPN. So both on ESPN, the prelims at 3 p.m. Pacific, the main card at 6 p.m. Pacific. To preview the card, I do expect a loud, early, and attentive Nashville crowd for this card. I wouldn't say the prelims are fantastic, but they do have some veteran matchups that should be hard fought. And I feel like the main card presents us with some violent matchmaking in the upper half. I expect some barn burners and some viewership-friendly bangers. I am previewing this Fight Night card a 6 out of 10, coming off the heels of International Fight Week, card of the year. Let's hope it delivers. A fight we will not break down. We have Mike Davis taking on Mitch Ramirez. But we're going to kick this off in the prelims. We have Kennedy, the African Savage, Nzechukwu, 33 years old with a 14-5 record, taking on Valter, the Clean Monster Walker, 27 years old with a 13-1 record. Now, Kennedy, since he's moved into the heavyweight division, is 2-0 in the UFC. You know, Valter, obviously only 27 years old, is still young and growing to round out his skill at the heavyweight division. And Kennedy is a long striker. I do think this is going to help his striking advantage, and Valter's going to have to find a way to close distance, get in range. But I do expect him to be aggressive, willing to exchange in this fight, potentially look for takedowns, clinch up against the cage. And just a note to remember, he is coming off back-to-back heel hook submissions. I would not expect him to get that in this fight, but you never know. Breaking this down, Kennedy is a Contender Series 2-time and LFA alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 3-2 since 2023. 10 of his 14 wins are via knockout. He rocks a 4.5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch leg reach advantage. Now, Valter is a Titan FC alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 2-1 in the UFC, and 6 of his 13 wins are via knockout. Now, I think Kennedy is obviously more of a developed striker than Valter. I do again expect Valter to clinch, try to dirty box, but I could see Njokuani using leg kicks to wear on him and keep Valter at range. Kennedy's coming off back-to-back first-round finishes himself. Both men full of confidence. I expect this to be a fun fight. But I am taking the African Savage, Kennedy, and Njokuani. I am putting them on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Lauren Lucky Murphy, 41 years old with a 16-6 record, taking on Eduarda Ronda Moura, 31 years old with an 11-1 record. Now, Lauren hasn't fought in the UFC for over 2 years, and she has announced to be her retirement fight. And Eduarda has had a lot of success early in her UFC career. I just expect her to be too strong, too quick for the older Murphy, although Murphy's fought much higher level competition. Breaking this down, Lauren has a brown belt in BJJ. She's the 2014 IBJJF blue belt no-gi world champion. She's a Legacy FC Invicta alum and former champion and Ultimate Fighter alum. She's on a 1-fight losing streak, 2-2 since 2021, and 8 of her 16 wins are via knockout. Now, Eduarda is a Contender Series alum. She's on a 1-fight winning streak, 3-1 in the UFC. 5 of her 11 wins are via submission, 4 via knockout, so 9 of her 11 wins come via finish. Now, Lauren has been known for her cardio, the ability to mix in her grappling attack, to pull her opponents deep into the waters, kind of just exhaust them and smother them. Eduarda hasn't faced a grappler of that level, so it's, That's going to be the story of the fight. Who wins the grappling battles? Can Moura stay off the canvas and let her hands fly to win the rounds? Or maybe she'll just continue to look for takedowns of her own. But this fight's a lot different. In Moura's last fight, she fought Denise Gomez, where she had 26 takedown attempts of her own, which is insane, especially in women's MMA. I just don't see that happening against Lauren Murphy. I think that Eduarda's just too young again. I think she's going to have more energy for the course of 15 minutes. But Lauren's retirement fight, I could see her going out on her shield. But I am taking Eduarda Moura. I am putting her on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Chidi Bang Bang Njokuani, 36 years old with a 25-10 record, taking on Jake the Celtic Kid Matthews, 30 years old with a 21-7 record. Now, this is where the really fun, evenly matched fights are stepping into the stage for the night. And there's a lot on the line for both of these men. Jake is just now entering his prime. Chidi's almost 37 years old, but he's on a 3-fight winning streak. And Chidi, over the course of the past few years, has really improved his grappling defense. But he, of course, lives off his length and power as a striker. Jake is a lot more well-rounded, in my opinion. He's just picking up momentum in his own, and we haven't seen him put it all together yet, so I'm really interested to see his showing here. Breaking this down, Chidi has a Muay Thai style. He has an orthodox stance with a black belt in BJJ, and he has been around the block. He's a King of the Cage, Ring of Fire, Legacy FC, RFA, Bellator, LFA, and Contender Series alum. And when I break down these resumes, I try to use reputable promotions. There's a bajillion promotions out there. But these are like every single promotion that you would fight before the UFC. Chidi's on a 3-fight winning streak, 3-2 since 2023. 15 of his 25 wins are via knockout. 5 of his 10 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. And of course, he has a 7-inch reach advantage. Now, Jake has a black belt in BJJ. He's an Ultimate Fighter alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak and is 3-1 since 2023. 8 of his 21 wins are via submission, 5 via knockout, so 13 of his 21 wins via finish, and 3 of his 7 losses are via submission. Now, I do expect Chidi to be the aggressor, but Jake is going to try to test his striking skills against Chidi. He stood up and struck with Phil Rowe last year, who's a solid striker, long striker of his own. But I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to mix in takedown attempts as well. I think he's going to have to. But I do expect this fight to be 15 minutes of violence and high-paced striking. I'm really interested to see who can control the middle of the octagon because I feel like that will tell a lot. But I'm feeling an underdog here. I'm taking Jake Matthews, the dog's coming to eat. Hoo hoo! But I'm avoiding this on any parlays. This really is a 50-50 fight in my mind. Then we have the prelim headliner, 2 veterans squaring up. We get Chris Action Man Curtis, 37 years old with a 31-12 record, taking on Max Payne Griffin, 39 years old with a 20-11 record. Again, this is 2 veterans who have been around for quite some time in the UFC. They're savvy veterans who have fought some of the best welterweights, which welterweight is a top 3 division in the UFC in my opinion, and are looking to start new winning streaks. Chris is a little younger, but he has a lot more fighting miles. He's also retired a few times, and he's actually been more active than Max, although he's dealt with the myriad of injuries, including the torn quad. But breaking this down, Chris trains out of Extreme Couture. He has a purple belt in BJJ. He's a Contender Series, PFL, and Icon Fighting alum. He was the 2021 Comeback Fighter of the Year. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's won 3-1 since 2023. 20 of his 34 wins are via knockout. 6 of his 18 losses are via submission. Now, Max has a first-degree black belt in kickboxing and a black belt in Bok Fu. He's on a 1-fight losing streak. He's 1-2 since 2023, and 9 of his 20 wins are via knockout. Now, Max hasn't had a highlight win in quite a while. He's going to be able to fight someone who is willing to stand and trade. I do expect Chris to push the pace and control the distance, while Max looks to counter and maybe get in clinch situations. Both men like their kicks as well, so whoever leads that can potentially have an early advantage. But I think Chris's boxing is the big difference here. You know, Chris is coming off a tough stretch, but he has fought world-class talent, and people forget he's not far removed from a knockout victory against Joaquin Buckley in December of 2022, which is barely over 2 years ago, and look at where Joaquin is today. Again, I think Chris's boxing will be too smooth. This will be a good 38th celebration for his birthday. For that reason, I'm taking Chris Curtis. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. I love that these guys get a fight in a packed stadium. Then moving on to the main card, we have Junior the Juggernaut Tafa, 28 years old with a 6-3 record, taking on Tuco Tokkos, 35 years old with a 10-5 record. Now this to me is an interesting light heavyweight matchup, as Junior has been an undersized heavyweight who's lived off his speed and power, and now he's finally making the full transition to light heavyweight. I think the UFC kind of just forced his hand booking heavyweight fights. So I'm interested to see how that translates, but he does look to be in great shape. Breaking this down, Junior has a boxing and Muay Thai style. He's a Brave and Risen alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 2-3 since 2023. And of course, all 6 of his wins are via knockout. Now, Tuco trains out of Killcliff FC. He's a Bellator and Fury FC alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak and is still seeking his first UFC win. And 6 of his 10 wins are via knockout. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of Tuco or Junior as world-class fighters. Tuco really just hasn't looked like he belongs in the UFC this far in his tenure. You know, he did have a decent showing of grit and determination against Navajo Sterling back in December as that fight wore on. But I would say Tuco is probably fighting for his roster spot, and he does train at Killcliff FC, but I feel like a guy like this would almost benefit training at a smaller gym where he could get some more personable training. But Junior, you know, if he wants a decent career in the UFC, I think he's in desperate need of a win as well. I expect some clanging and banging in this one, but I think Junior has more zest. But the longer the fight goes, Tuco could prevail. He might even look to get Tafa down. That's been a big weakness of his. You know, he does train at Killcliff with a ton of good grapplers there as well, so look out for that. But I'm taking Junior Tafa. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. We have Vitor Petrino, 27 years old with a 11-2 record, taking on Austen Lane, 37 years old with a 13-6-1 record. Now this is another fighter changing weight classes. Vitor is bulking up and giving himself a shot at the heavyweight division. You know, he was a very big dude in the light heavyweight division with power and grappling ability, but he will be undersized in this one as Austen's a big dude. He's a former NFL player. And Austen, you know, he's had a tough going in the UFC. This would probably be the biggest win of his UFC career. Breaking it down, Vitor is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, 4-2 since 2023, and 7 of his 11 wins are via knockout. Now, Austen is a former NFL defensive end. He had 66 tackles and 3-6 in his tenure. He's a purple belt in BJJ. He's a Contender Series 2-time Island Fights, LFA, and Fury FC alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 1-3 since 2023. 11 of his 13 wins are via knockout, and all 6 of his losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Vitor's just almost 28 years old. He's still young. He's not even in his prime. And I personally think he rushed a decision to move to heavyweight. I don't know the specifics of how bad his weight cut was at light heavyweight, but he was massive in that division, and that was an advantage. He got unlucky with the guillotine against Anthony Smith, and he fought a very good, savvy veteran kickboxer in Dustin Jacoby. You know, he did get knocked out, but now he will be fighting big dudes who are harder to take down and have serious power of their own. Lane has grown a little bit over his time in the UFC, but he still doesn't have a great gas tank for 15 minutes, and it doesn't seem like he's really stuck to a solid game plan. Of course, he does have serious power himself, but he has been knocked out in 3 consecutive losses, and I don't think he's going to be able to take Petrino down or look to do so like he did against a one-dimensional Robelis de Spain. For that reason, I'm taking Vitor Petrino. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. So to this point, again, the prelims are decent. I am excited for the Chidi fight and the Chris Action Man Curtis fight. Then you get 2 heavyweight fights. We should get early finishes. Would be shocked if they go to decision. But these next fights are certified bangers. Starting with this one, a fight of the night contender. We get Morgan, the last pirate Charriere, 29 years old with a 20-11-1 record, taking on Nate the Train Landwehr, 37 years old with an 18-6 record. I think this is where the fun kicks off. I mean, both men are very fun strikers. I think they're going to try to show off their kickboxing abilities against each other. But Morgan is now just entering his prime, while Nate's in the latter half of his 30s. You know, Nate has really become a fan favorite with his Rocky-like style, get beaten up, deliver the beatings. He has great showmanship, but he's getting a formidable opponent who I think might actually outclass him in the showmanship department. I mean, Morgan has a wide stance that has been open for kicks, but Nate doesn't look for that. He strictly is a boxer, so I'm interested to see if he evolves a little bit for this fight. Breaking it down, Morgan is an Octagon and Cage Warriors alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 2-2 in the UFC, and 12 of his 20 wins are via knockout. Now, Nate trains out of MMA Masters. 4 of his last 6 fights have been Performance of the Night or Fight of the Night. He shows up, he shows out. He's an XFC M1 alum and former champion with 2 successful title defenses. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 2-2 since 2023. 9 of his 18 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 6 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. We get a lot of fighters on this card that are to live and die by the sword, so to speak. And Nate also has a 3-inch reach advantage. Now, Nate doesn't take people down. Morgan does have that ability to when needed, so it'll be interesting to see if that comes into play or not. Nate, although he is a brute force, I'd say he's a little bit more collected and calm in his attack, as Morgan will come at you with spinning attacks and at all angles, kind of like Yair Rodriguez-esque. I feel like although Morgan has suffered some early losses in his UFC career, I think that has made him a better fighter from those losses and has prepped him for an opponent like Nate. If this fight goes late into round 2 and round 3, things will get very interesting, but I think Morgan is just too talented. For that reason, I'm taking the last pirate. We are putting Morgan on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on, we get Steve the Mean Machine Garcia, 33 years old with a 17-5 record, taking on Calvin Kattar, 37 years old with a 23-9 record, and then number 14 next to his name. Now, this fight is also guaranteed violence. 2 boxing heavy strikers. We get the veteran who is in desperation mode taking on a man in the middle of his prime who is full of confidence and looking to make a run in the top 15. Breaking it down, Steve trains out of Jackson's MMA. 3 of his last 5 fights have been Performance of the Night. He's showing up, he's showing out. He's a Bellator Contender Series and LFA alum. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. All of them have been via knockout. 14 of his 17 wins are via knockout, and he has a 3-inch reach advantage. Now, Calvin trains out of New England Cartel. He has a blue belt in BJJ. He's on a 4-fight winning streak and is 1-4 since 2022. And 11 of his 23 wins are via knockout. Now, it just seems like he hasn't been the same Calvin Kattar that is since that beatdown against Max Holloway in 2021. A beatdown like that definitely has to do something to your confidence, and he's spoken about that. Now Calvin is past his prime and taking on a young, hungry force, the Mean Machine, like Steve, who will pressure forward and take a couple hits to give a hit. I just don't see how Calvin could keep Steve off him to have the distance to do what he needs to do. You know, Calvin has struggled against grapplers in his time, and Steve has recently added some of that to his game, so he may look to mix in a few, but I expect both of these guys to be standing in the middle of the octagon, come throwing some heat, but I'm taking Steve Garcia. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on in the co-main event, we get Gabriel Martinha Bonfim, 27 years old with a 17-1 record, taking on Steven Wonderboy Thompson, 42 years old with a 17-8-1 record and the number 12 next to his name. Now, this fight is no secret. It's a clash of styles, and we know exactly what Gabriel wants to do. You know, Wonderboy, he's 42 years old. When you see most 42-year-old fighters, you want to write them off right away. But Steven is much different than most men of his age, because with his karate style, he has a hit but don't be hit style. He hasn't taken a lot of damage. He's done a good job when the fight stays standing, but again has struggled against grapplers, and we are about to see a bunch of takedown attempts in this fight. Breaking it down, Gabriel is a Jungle Fight, LFA, and Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak and is 5-1 in the UFC, and 13 of his 17 wins are via submission. Now, Steven has a kickboxing style. He has a 7th degree black belt in Tetsu Shin Ryu Kempo Karate, a 1st degree black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and a black belt in American kickboxing, and a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In 2001 through 2003, he won the IKF tournament. He was also a 2005 Waco World Champion for kickboxing. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 1-4 since 2021, and 8 of his 17 wins are via knockout. I know that Wonderboy has mentioned that at the end of his career, he doesn't enjoy facing grappling-heavy fighters. He wants to put on a show. I really wanted to see him versus MVP. They have a good relationship. They probably didn't want to fight each other. But now he has to deal with Bonfim. You know, Steven did put on a show in his last striking heavy victory against Kevin Holland in December of 2023. But every fight since 2023, he's fought a grappler. Maybe that's all that he can get. You know, it is a very tough and deep welterweight division. I'm not sure how long or how many fights Steven has left, but Gabriel is going to sell out looking to take Steven down, and I'm not sure how much confidence I can have in Steven stopping that. For that reason, I'm taking Gabriel Bonfim. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Then in the main event, some more heavyweight giants. We get Derrick, the Black Beast Lewis. 40 years old with a 28-12-1 record and the number 9 next to his name, taking on Tallison Teixeira, 25 years old with an undefeated 8-0 record and the number 13 next to his name. Now, this is a massive step up for the young undefeated Tallison. Although Derrick is now 40 years old, he's been in the octagon with the best in the world and has a ton of experience, and to be honest, has looked good since 2023, especially because he's kind of revitalized his conditioning and seems to be in better shape. I do think Tallison will have a bright career. A win here could skyrocket him at only 25 years old, but again, Derrick is by far his toughest test yet. Breaking this down, Derrick has a purple belt in BJJ. He's tied with Stefan Struve for the second most post-fight bonuses in heavyweight history with 8. He has the most knockouts in UFC history and heavyweight history with 15. He has the second most wins in UFC heavyweight history at 19. The second most bouts in UFC heavyweight history at 29. He's tied with Cain Velasquez, Alistair Overeem, and Andrei Arlovsky for the second most knockdowns landed in UFC heavyweight division history with 10. He has the second most total fight time in UFC heavyweight history with over 4 hours, 25 minutes, and 10 seconds. He has the latest comeback finish by striking deficit in a finished fight at minus 82 strikes against Alexander Volkov, where he had the 2018 comeback of the year. He's tied with Cain Velasquez for most knockouts stemming from ground strikes in UFC history at 8. He's a Bellator and Legacy FC alum. He's a Legacy FC former champ with 1 successful title defense. He's also an RFA alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 2-2 since 2023. 23 of his 28 wins are via knockout, and 7 of his 12 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Tallison has an orthodox stance. He's an LFA and Contender Series alum. He's undefeated on an 8-fight winning streak, 2-0 in the UFC. 7 of his 8 wins are via knockout, and he is rocking a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. Now, Tallison being so young and not having faced any competition, it's tough for me to see him just waltzing the Black Beast down and getting the finish. Does he have the size and power to do so? Absolutely. But it's very possible that both of these men are going to just throw bombs. But I do think that Tallison's going to come in overzealous. This is such a big opportunity, main eventing a card in front of a sold-out arena, and I feel like Derrick Lewis is going to make him pay. So for that reason, I'm taking another underdog. The dog's coming to eat. I'm taking Derrick Lewis, but I'm avoiding this on any parlays. This is another 50-50 fight. But again, between the Derrick Lewis, the Bonfim fight, the Steve Garcia fight, the Morgan Charriere fight, this is a very fun fight night card. And that sets us up for next week. We get a very fun UFC 318 card. People's been knocking it. I'm telling you, it's going to deliver. It's got violent matchmaking. It's Dustin Poirier's retirement fight in a trilogy against former featherweight champion Max Holloway. I can't wait to break that down. I'll be tuning in with a big smile after the finished product. But that's episode 106. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.